You should talk, Aquaman.
What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. Okay, all right. I'm not even sure we have one of these.
Zoology swears we do.
Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And let's talk horror. Today we're going to be talking about one of my probably top 10 favorite films of all time, 2011's The Cabin in the Woods. Now, before we get started, I do want everybody to know we did a table screams, a table reading of this film on our friend Celeste Sweet and Spooky's channel, and you can check that out by clicking the links down in the description below.
It's a lot of fun. You should definitely check it out.
We had a blast doing it, so make sure you guys are checking that out after you hear us talk about The Cabin in the Woods. So, do you want to get started?
Let's do this. So, we are introduced by two white-collar, kind of dorky guys. Sitterson and Hadley are their names. They're having this funny, meaningless conversation about having kids and all that comes with it. This is when a shy woman, her name's Lynn, walks in and tells them that Stockholm went south, whatever that means.
That went okay.
It's only us in Japan left. So she's worried. You can see it on her face. But Sitterson and Hadley aren't. They're like, oh, we haven't had a glitch since 1998. And whose fault was that?
Oh, it was the chem department, which is where Lynn works.
Yeah, Lynn is in the chem department. So they pretty much just ride away on their golf cart, like not worrying about anything, having more funny conversation. And this is when Hadley's like, well, if they're already this puckered up, it's going to be a long weekend. And he's already looking forward to Monday, inviting Sitterson over to hang out.
Let's get our power tools and liberate my cabinets.
Yeah. So this is when we get our jump scare title card.
Which is funny because it really is. It's a jump scare. When
It
it comes in, it's awesome. We go from this point, we jump over to this college student getting ready. We don't know much about her yet. Her name is Dana. She's half dressed looking at a sketchbook, seeing a professor drawn in there. She was having an affair with a professor. Now, Jules comes up behind her and says, why haven't you used this as a dartboard yet? Dana's not really ready to let it go. She turns around and sees Jules dyed her hair blonde recently. And this is one thing I love about this movie. It is horror. It is comedy. And it lands all the way through.
Absolutely.
She's like, tell me it's fabulous. I'm starting to get nervous.
Yeah.
You know,
And she's like, oh, I love it.
yeah, Dana turns around. They go on about how it's not his fault. And, you know, Jules is like, wait a minute. It's not his fault that he was banging a student or that he broke up with her over text.
Yeah.
So it's actually, you know, pretty heavy, you know, something that happens that shouldn't ever happen.
Right.
This is when Jules' boyfriend Kurt walks in and he throws a football at him. Think fast. They don't think fast. The football goes out the window and gets caught by his friend Holden, who's waiting outside.
Jules and Kurt are trying really hard to hook Dana and Holden up, and they are not subtle about it in the least.
Yeah.
This also is when Kurt notices that Jules dyed her hair blonde, and makes some funny remarks about it. We're then introduced to go outside, and we're introduced to Marty. He's pulling up, and as he's driving, he has this really long, like, coffee mug bong that he's smoking out of.
He says, it's a statistical fact that cops won't pull over a guy smoking a big bong because he sees farther than them. I love Marty.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He gets out of the car, he slides his mug shut, so now it's just a coffee mug, and he tells Kurt, I would never take a bong in your dad's van. What are you, stoned? So it's funny. He's a funny guy. Then they all get in the RV and they're driving to their destination. And this is when it pans up to the top of Dana's apartment and there's a guy up there. And over his earpiece, he says, the birds have left the nest. We're right on time. So whatever what's going on there.
Right. So then in the RV, Marty is going on about how society needs to crumble, but everyone's just too chicken shit to let it happen. I mean, he's talking, and it's funny because this was 2011 and it's even more true now.
Yeah.
He's like, everything's blogged or recorded. We need to let it crumble, but everybody's too scared to let it happen. And they're like, Marty, we've missed your high talks. You know, he's like, pretty soon. And he's rolling a joint. He's like, you will come to see things my way.
Yeah.
But now we cut back to Sitterson and Hadley walking into a control room. They introduced a guy named Truman. And more funny dialogue between them, like, drop the sir stuff, Truman. Even though Sitterson does like to be called Sweet Cheeks, you know, or Honey Toes.
Honey Toes.
I think Sitterson and Hadley are my favorite part of the film. Obviously, I enjoy them very much.
Yeah, they're just so their chemistry together is amazing. Like, and they bounce off each other, and it hits.
Yeah, they work really, really well together. So they're introduced to Truman, and Truman's like, they're like, have you been briefed, Truman, on what's going to be happening? He's like, yes, I've been briefed. And like, remember, briefed doesn't mean ready. So you need to be on your toes all the time. We cut back to the group. They're pulling up to a gas station. They can't find an attendant. The sign says closed.
It looks abandoned. It's
Yeah.
like a rundown old gas station. The pumps don't even like have a credit card slot or anything.
I'm pretty sure it's barter gas. I think this is a total homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre at this point. Like you totally get that feeling here.
For sure.
And then we go up inside the building. Holden's inside the building, and this is where he jumps out. Mordecai jumps out, and you come here uninvited. And this guy is just like the most cliche
backwoods redneck.
Yeah, spitting the chew on the floor. And Kurt tells him, I just need a little bit of gas. Does it work? And he's like, well, it works if you know how to use it. Totally insinuating these are just stupid city kids. Mordecai goes on to tell him, if you want to get up here to the Buckner place, because they ask him, do you know how to get to the Buckner place? He says, getting there is one thing, getting back, that's your problem. He's pretty much telling them, don't go. You're screwed if you go. This is where they really start to kind of get into it a little bit. He calls Jules a whore. Kurt's about to whoop his ass. Marty, he's like, I've been here since the war. And then Marty's like, would that be the one with some blue and some gray, brother against brother? Finally, Kurt just gets pissed off, throws money at the guy, tells him he's got enough gas. They drive off. As they're driving, they go through a tunnel, and you see a bird that's flying, and a bird just all of a sudden hits an invisible force field. Now, our group doesn't see this happen. They're driving through a tunnel as it happens, and it doesn't get brought up again. So it's just the weirdest thing. We've seen a bird hit a force field. Okay.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get to Kurt's cousin's cabin, and it looks pretty run down. They all look a little skeptical.
A very obvious Evil Dead reference
for sure.
here. Like, it's just, the way that they drive up to the cabin, the way the cabin looks, it's all very Evil Dead, and it's so great.
Yeah. So they're all a little skeptical about it. They go in. Holden finds his room, puts his stuff down, and on the wall there's this like really creepy painting of like animals and like people like
sacrificing them.
People sacrificing the animals. So he's like, no. So he takes the painting down, and when he takes it down, he sees this like window, and on the other side of the window is Dana, and she can't see him.
She's just staring. It's almost creepy. She's just like, staring in the window. Like fixing herself like she's looking in a mirror. So then she starts to undress, and Holden's like kind of like wants to see There's
it. Obviously,
definitely an internal debate going on here.
And then he's like, hold up. And so they all go in, and they're looking. It's a one-way mirror. They're all looking at it, and Holden is like, we can switch rooms. Let's go ahead and switch. And she was like, thank you for being really decent.
He even says, he's like, don't jump to conclusions. It was really hard for me to do this.
He was like, I was injured. So they switch rooms, and Holden goes in, taking his shirt off, showing his muscles.
And it's just funny that immediately after they switch, he's just, starting to take his shirt. It's like, dude, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, he totally did. He was like, you want to see my abs?
And then he goes to take his pants off, and that's when Dana's like, no.
So she was like, yeah, no. And she puts back up the painting. This is when the camera pans out, and we see them all the whole group on different screens. They're being watched. And
now we're starting to connect the dots a little bit.
Yeah.
Sitterson and Hadley and the group that they're with downstairs is starting to watch. They've been watching everything. So the guy at the beginning on the radio, he was radioing and down to Sitterson and Hadley. So they are connected here now, and we're starting to realize it.
Right. So like you said, Sitterson, he's watching, and this is when he's like, all right, we're live. Lynn comes in, tells them that they are slowing down Jules' cognition by the hair dye. So, I mean, they've been planning this.
Right. Another really funny moment here is when she's like, do you want us to pipe it, or do you want us? And he's like, can you say that again a little bit slower?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you're a pig.
You pig. So this is when Mordecai calls from the gas station, and he's talking all kinds of crazy talk.
I want to chip in real quick and just say this is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. We talk about the chemistry between Sitterson and Hadley, and I feel like, obviously we watch a lot of the behind the scenes. These guys kept it going the whole time. Even when camera was off, These guys were having a blast with each other.
I'm sure. I mean, they would be cool to hang out
Oh,
with.
these guys would be totally dope to hang out with. And I just wanted to chime in real quick saying this is genuinely one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
So Mordecai, he hears that he's on speakerphone and he asks Hadley, am I on speakerphone? And Hadley's like, oh, no, you're not on speakerphone. And then Sitterson and Hadley are, laughing at him. And he's like, I am on speakerphone. Take me off.
That's rude. Yeah. I don't know who's in the room.
Right. But it's just so crazy. He's like talking all this and then he's like, that's rude.
Yeah.
So
he takes him off
Yeah,
speakerphone.
he takes him off. And he starts talking his crazy talk again, and then this is when he realizes he's still on speakerphone.
I'm still on speakerphone, aren't I?
So now we go back to the group. They're all at the lake. They're swimming. They're having fun. What is that in the water? It looks like my girlfriend. And he throws her in. Like they were having a really good time. Marty's the one. He's on the shore. He's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
You guys can do your thing. I'm going to stay up here. He jumps in the water too, Kurt, and he's like, there's also a gorgeous man. And then Jules trying to kill him. He's like, don't kill a gorgeous man. It's an endangered species. Definitely cool. This is when it jumps back to a screen that displays each person from the group's vitals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, real quick, I'm going to go off script here for a second. Okay. I want everybody to remember this part. And I'm going to talk about this again later.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about how this is one of my favorite movies. It is. But this is a huge part that pisses me off in this movie.
So yeah, I mean, you see their heart rate.
You see their heart rate, their vitals. Everything is displayed on the screen for everybody to see. Remember that, because we're going to come back to that a little bit later. This is another scene that I genuinely love. You got Sitterson and Hadley taking money from people, and you don't know what they're taking money for yet. Now he's like, Hadley's like, did you see who he picked? He's practically giving his money away. And then Sitterson's like,
You should talk, Aquaman.
again, if you watch Hadley, rewind that. Watch Hadley. He just stares at him the whole time. He's like, what do you mean? And just continues to stare at him the whole time. Lynn asks Truman if he's betting. He says, no, this is not his thing. It's not really what he wants to be in on. This is where Hadley pipes in, says, the director doesn't care, because that's what... what's his name? Truman is like, does the director know about this? And this is where Hadley's like, look, the director doesn't care. As long as everything goes right upstairs, they don't care what we do downstairs. And then this is where, so it's fixed. And he says, no, it's not fixed. We rigged the game. He's like, you seen Mordecai? That guy's fucking crazy. He's basically a walking stop sign telling him to turn around and go home. We rig the game as much as we have to, but if they don't transgress, they can't be punished. Again, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, what is going on? What are they going to do?
No idea what the hell's going on. So then at the same time, Sitterson says, all right, let's get this party started. And then we cut back to the cabin to Kurt. Let's get this party started. So now you have both parties, they're literally partying downstairs. They're partying upstairs. And this is where you get to see the most epic of dance moves ever by Sitterson and Hadley.
So the kids, they're all playing Truth or Dare, because that's what kids do at parties.
Right.
And Marty, he dares Jules to make out with the moose on the wall, which really is actually a wolf.
Whatever that mysterious beast is.
That's clearly a wolf.
I'm living in a womb of reefer. Leave me alone.
So Jules, she puts on this sexy show, makes out with a wolf, and then she chooses Dana next. And this is when Kurt's like, truth. She gets offended because she doesn't want to be like the
Prude.
The prude. So she chooses Dare, and this is when the cellar door all of a sudden just bursts open. And stupidly, everyone's like, it was just probably the wind.
And that makes what sense?
Yeah, so
Marty is still...
He's still like the person of reason.
Which is funny because he's the stoner of the group.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll come back to help him at the end.
It could. You never know. So Dana's like, Dana is the one that gets chosen to go down to the cellar. That's her dare.
And she can't go back on it now because he already told her she was gonna.
Yes. So she has to do it. So she goes down into the cellar and she sees all of these different antiques and really old looking stuff. She looks over and she sees this painting of a little girl and she screams. It scares her. And this is when everybody else runs downstairs. And so now they're all looking at all the different things, each of them looking at something different. Marty, he's like, I dare y'all to go back upstairs because he's freaked out. Like, this isn't, like, what's going on?
He's still
here?
level-headed at this moment. You know, they've been pumping in the stupid juice into the house, and for some reason Marty's not being affected, but everybody else is.
Right. So Kurt, he grabs this shell conch and is looking at it. And they're all looking at something different. Like, Holden, he's playing with a music box. You see a little ballerina. Jules, she is pulling, like, gonna put this necklace on. This is when Dana starts reading out of a diary. And this is a diary of Patient Buckner, 1903. And Patient goes on in her diary about her really screwed up family. They're murderers. It's like this religion and they kill other people.
Super culty.
But Patience and her mother, they don't believe in this. The father and the brothers do, but they don't. So the mother gets killed. They open up her belly and fill it with hot coals. And her brother Matthew is watching this and getting a husband bulge from it. Yeah.
Pretty odd thing to get a husband's bulge for.
Right. And Patience, Matthew, the brother, cuts off Patience's arm and eats it. So, I mean, what a family there.
Yeah. Very, very strong family they have there.
Absolutely. So then in the diary, there's this part that's in Latin. And she's like, oh, there's some Latin. And Marty is like,
I'm drawing a line in the fucking sand here. Don't read the Latin.
Don't read the Latin. Obviously, don't read the Latin.
Yeah.
Like, but Kurt, he gets all like alpha male and calls him a baby. It's just a diary, you know. So Dana,
then you got the mysterious voice.
Yeah, read it. So what was that?
Kurt's the only one that can hear
he
it.
thinks he's going crazy. Like, what was in that pot?
What was in the weed?
Yeah,
my super secret stash.
So Dana reads the Latin, and this is when it pans over to these zombies rising from their grave. They have all these weapons, and there's this younger girl, and her arm is cut off. So
you don't say.
We go back to the underground
bunker.
The bunker, and this is when Sitterson says, we have a winner, and it is the Buckner family. And behind them, there's this whiteboard, and it's filled with all these, like, potential monsters.
I love all these monsters you're seeing right now.
If you look and you read them all, it's amazing. All of them that are on there.
I just want to know who Kevin is.
Kevin.
There's one that just says Kevin. Like, who's Kevin? Is it Kevin from Home Alone, maybe?
Right. So this is when Hadley, he's really bummed, and he says,
He had the conch in his hands.
You know, in a couple more minutes, who knows what might have happened.
I am never going to see a merman. Ever.
Poor Hadley. He was so bummed he didn't get to see his merman.
There's always next year, hopefully. So we do look at a screen, we see a bunch of Japanese schoolgirls, and they're being tortured by the spirit of Kiko. Definitely an homage to The Grudge, The Ring.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool. Back to the group, Jules is dancing around, acting all sexy, dancing for Marty, and Kurt's like, oh, don't act like you wouldn't want a piece of that. Which is weird because that's not who they are.
Right.
And Marty says he has a theory about this. He asked Dana, she doesn't think there's something weird going on.
You don't notice any of, red flags.
Right. Kurt's acting like this big alpha jock when he's on a full scholarship to school.
Right.
He's on an academic scholarship. He's not on a, sports scholarship. He's on a full academic scholarship, and he's calling his friend an egghead. So that's not who he is. Dana says they're drunk. Marty's like, I've seen them drunk before. This is not them drunk. There's definitely something weird going on. We see Kurt and Jules now are outside. They're starting to fool around. They're getting all hot and bothered. And this is where it cuts back inside. And every single one of the white coats is just sitting there watching them, hoping that she's going to take her top off.
So at this point, they're making out and everything. And Jules is like, I'm cold. So they pump some pheromone mist into the air. And they start fooling around, making out. And this is when Jules gets a knife through her hand by these zombies. Kurt tries to fight him off, but he gets a knife in the side of the neck. And then Jules gets grabbed by a bear trap on her back and pulled, and her head sawed off.
Right in front of him.
Yeah. So we go back to Hadley and Sitterson, and they're doing their little prayer for them. And Hadley goes over and he pulls down this lever. And this is when there's like a pool of blood that goes into this like ritualistic statue.
Yeah. So now we go back to Marty. He's reading Nemo, and he keeps hearing voices telling him to go for a walk. And I'm talking Captain Nemo, okay? I'm not talking, Nemo and Dory, okay?
He's looking at pictures.
Right. He keeps hearing the voice saying, go for a walk, go for a walk. He's like, what the fuck is this? I'm the master of my own head. I'm going to go for a walk. So then he does end up going for a walk. He passes Dana and Holden making out on the couch, points out that Holden has a husband's bulge.
How awkward.
When Marty's outside, behind him, the little girl with the missing arm is walking up. And all of a sudden, Kurt's there. We got to get out of here. We got to go. He clotheslines Patience Buckner on his way into the house. Dana asks where Jewel is. She's not leaving without Jules. They open the door and a huge zombie throws Jules' head in. Dana catches it. Dana's obviously screaming now because she realizes Jules is dead.
Yeah.
She's just lost her best friend. Obviously, that's a huge blow. And now she's definitely ready to get the fuck out.
Right. So they're all together, and Kurt says, we all need to stay together.
Citizen Hadley like, fuck, come on.
So Sitterson presses a button, and all of this mist of dumb juice sprays out into the room. And this is when Kurt changes his mind. He's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. We all need to split up and cover more ground. This is when Marty's like, really? Like, the voice of reason still, clearly. So this is when something bursts through the front door, and they all start running. They each go to their room, and they get locked in there. Yeah, so they're all by themselves in all of their rooms.
Yeah.
Marty, he's in his room, and he breaks over a lamp. It breaks, and there's a little camera in it. And he's like, am I on a reality TV show?
My parents are going to think I'm the biggest burnout.
I know. And so Sitterson had like, oh shit, like he found the camera.
Yeah.
So they're going to pump some Thorazine in until Sitterson's like, oh, hold up.
Judah Buckner,
Judah
to
Buckner
the
to the rescue. So Judah crashes through the window, pulls Marty out, stabs him, drags him, and you see this blood squirting out over a hill. And then again, Hadley, he pulls the lever down, and this is when the pool of blood goes into the statue.
So now we got another dead with the count. Dana and Holden get into the cellar, finding the Buckner torture chamber. Holden gets grabbed by the bear trap. Dana picks up a crowbar. I love it. She's like, you like pain? And she slams it right into his face. How do you like that?
Yeah.
This is where, Kurt finds them. They get into the RV. They peel off. This is where we cut back to the Japanese schoolgirls on the TV when they defeat Kiko by placing her into a little, into this,
Now Kiko is in a little frog.
And this pisses Sitterson off.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
So Lynn comes on the overcom. 0 fatalities in Japan. It was a total wash. We're watching the group, and we're noticing that the tunnel that they're going in has not been blown.
Yeah.
So they're going to make it out. You're kind of happy for them. They're going to make it out. Sitterson and Hadley, not so much. Sitterson can't get a hold of maintenance, so he just runs. He jumps under there, takes the wires out, and does it himself. Hot wires it. It caves in, so the group has to turn back. So our group did not make it out. Once they're out there looking around and they see the ravine, and Kurt's like, I can jump this on my motorcycle. He's like, and I don't care if I crash on the other side. I'm going to get up and I'll walk my way. I'm going to come back with guns and choppers, and we're going to do this for Jules. So he gets on his motorcycle. He starts driving. He's going to totally make it over the ravine, and boom, he crashes into a wall. The same wall we saw the bird hit earlier.
Right.
So that did come back in handy.
And Dana and Holden are just like freaking out. Like, what did he hit?
There was nothing there. Puppeteers. Dana's starting to realize there's something going on here. Marty was right. We should have listened to Marty. They get back in the Rambler, they're driving, and Holden's like, we'll just drive back and forth. Dana's freaking out, like, it doesn't matter.
Like, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be something more.
And he's like, I need you with me right now. We need that. Boom! Knife goes right through his neck. The Rambler crashes off into the lake, starts filling up with water. They're going to die. Holden's already dead, but Dana luckily makes it out right in the nick of time. She comes back to the surface, and she's climbing up onto the dock, and it looks like our little Dana is going to be okay.
So back to Sitterson and Hadley and Lynn. They're all celebrating. The ritual is complete.
Well, Lynn's drinking.
She's not celebrating. So they are, Truman, he asks about Dana. He's like, well, she's not dead. And they're like, well, her death, it is optional.
Yeah.
Like, as long as she suffered, in that she did.
Which she did.
Yeah, that her death doesn't matter. So more of the crew, they come in, they're all hanging out, partying. This is when Sitterson goes up to maintenance and he's like, "Oh, you knuckleheads."
You had me going there for a minute.
Yeah, and maintenance, they're irritated at this point. Like, this wasn't our fault. Like, this was a glitch from upstairs. And Sitterson, yeah.
Stone face.
Like, his face just drains.
What do you mean from upstairs?
Yeah. And this is when they get a phone call. And Hadley, he's like, "Be quiet."
Everybody shut that fucking music off. Like, right when that phone starts ringing, him and Sitterson look at each other and they just know shit's about to go down. It looks like a ground zero phone, like that only used in case of something shitty going on.
So he answers the phone and you can't hear what the other person is saying, but he's like, "How is that possible? Like, we did everything by the guideline. The virgin's the only one left."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "Which one?" So as soon as he says this, we go back to Dana and she's still fighting with one of the Buckner zombies, and we see Marty. And he helps her. He
uses his bong.
He uses his bong
to stop the bear trap as it's spinning.
Right.
That's a twist. That's very twisty.
Can I interject here for a second?
Absolutely.
You guys may remember earlier where I talked about something that really bothered me in this movie. This is it. They literally have all their vitals, their heartbeat, their heart rate, their oxygen levels, everything on the one screen that we saw earlier. But yet now they were tricked.
Like, they didn't know he
They
was
didn't
really
know he was alive?
Yeah, he was really alive. What gets
What?
me is when she kills him and all the blood pools into...
Well, because he pulled the thing.
Yeah, and so you think he's dead. Like,
exactly. Like, why would they think that he's dead if they have all his vitals? That's the only flaw I find with this movie. So
other than that, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I just had to throw that part out there real quick. Marty and Dana get into one of the zombie graves. Marty's been in there and he's like, "So how have you been doing?" "Just you, huh?"
Mm-hmm.
And you see pieces of the zombie everywhere. And he's like, "Yeah, I had to dismember him with a trowel. That's how my day's been going."
Right.
But he says he knows that someone sent these dead fucks up here to get us. And you see that there's an elevator. And he's like, "We're going to go down." And Dana's like, "Go down? I don't think that's such a good
like,
idea."
"Do you want to go down?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Where else are we going to go?"
So they get in the elevator, they start going down, and this is where you have another one of my favorite visual shots in the whole movie. You see all the cubes with all the different potential monsters that could have came and got them. And now you're realizing that this could, honestly be how every horror movie's ever happened.
Yeah.
This could connect every horror movie ever. People made the choice to bring these people back, and these people underground sent them up. And you see, the guy that could have been Pinhead.
Yeah.
Holding the lament configuration.
Yeah, he's got like saws through his head instead of pins.
The sugar plum fairy with just the little beautiful girl, but when she turns around, it's just teeth all over in her head.
Well, that's when they notice, like, we chose them.
Dana says it. We chose.
Yeah.
We chose how we were going to die.
Yeah.
Didn't see it coming, did ya?
And one thing I want to throw out here real quick, if you're fans of the video game Left 4 Dead, there was supposed to be a connection with this movie and Left 4 Dead. So if you look through these cubes, you'll see the boomer and the witch from the video game, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Me and my son were always into that video game. So this is where you really get that too. Like, you get all these connections, and this connections that were even supposed to happen with a video game that was never actually happened.
Right.
So and at this point, you get everything coming together into one big your mind is flooding right now. All these different things are happening, and it's amazing. So again, one of my favorite shots in the whole film.
So we're back to Sitterson and Hadley. They're sitting there and they're trying to find them in the cubes. And they need to make sure that Marty dies. Like, Marty has to die. They spot him in one of the cubes.
Well, that's what they keep saying.
Yeah.
Don't kill the girl.
Don't kill the girl. Yeah. If you do, you have to kill him first.
Yeah, make sure he's gone first.
Right. So they spot him in one of the cubes and they send their guards to them. The guards are the elevator opens and they tell Marty to step out. This is when the zombie hand grabs them and they get free. And so they're loose into this laboratory now. And so this is when they're walking and a woman comes on a speaker and she's like, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be faster. Please forgive us. But like, he has to die."
Yeah.
So this is when more of their guards come, and Dana lets out all the monsters. So these elevators are opening, and there's all these monsters just taking out their guards.
It's amazing.
It's a bloodbath. Workers are committing suicide because they see over the intercom what's happening, you know, to all these people.
And there's just so many different monsters.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool. Like, it's so cool.
So Sitterson, Hadley, Lynn, and Truman, they're trying to figure something out. Like, what are we going to do?
Well, Truman's dying. And he pulls the pin on a grenade and lets himself blow up trying to kill some of the monsters. Truman's a military man.
Yeah.
So he's like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to take out as many as I can with me to try to help my comrades.
So he pulls, so the bomb goes off. Hadley goes flying. And then through the smoke, you see...
Oh, come on.
He finally got to see his merman. Yes, you were wrong, sir. You are going to get to see a merman.
Not
Hadley
under
dies.
the greatest circumstances.
Right. So now Hadley dies. Lynn gets taken by a tentacle, and, you know, Sitterson makes it down. He's running, and around the corner comes Dana at the same time, and she stabs Sitterson in the stomach. And he tells her, he's like, listen, you have to kill him.
He's pleading with her.
So then Sitterson dies. Unfortunately, we lost Sitterson and Hadley within the span of 5 minutes, and my heart
Right.
couldn't take it.
But you see the wheels kind of spinning in
Yeah, Dana's
head.
like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Dana and Marty find a room with these ancient statues with blood, and they realize that, like, this is us. You know, this is who we were.
There's 5 of them.
Yeah. And they want to see us punished. And Marty's like, punished for what? And then the beautiful, stunning, and always amazing Sigourney Weaver pops up for being young. And it's amazing to see Sigourney Weaver in this role. We love Sigourney Weaver.
Absolutely.
And for her to be the director behind everything, who else could it have been?
Badass.
Yeah. So she starts explaining it like you got the whore, the scholar, the athlete, the fool, and the virgin.
And Dana's like, me? A virgin?
We work with what we got.
Right.
So, and she's like, it doesn't matter. We have to feed the ancient ones. This is a ritual, no matter what country it is, no matter what religion it is, it's always the same. You have to have these sacrifices made to the ancient gods. And if they don't, the world's going to end.
Yes. Everyone will die.
And Marty says, well, maybe the world needs to end if the way around it is killing me and my friends.
Right.
They get a gun. Dana's pointing the gun at Marty. Marty turns around. He's like, "Fucking really?
Like, really?" But she's like, everyone.
The whole
Marty?
world, Marty." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "So am I." And then she gets attacked from behind by a werewolf.
Which he sees walking up.
That's why he said, "So am I."
Yeah.
You know, because he knew, like, I'm gonna let you die right now. You know, it's a whole kind of pandemonium right now. The director's trying to take out Marty. Dana's trying to protect herself against the werewolf.
Right, because she drops her gun. So
Yep.
Marty and the director are fighting over the gun, pretty much.
Yep. Finally, Marty does get the gun. He shoots the werewolf and it runs off. The director tackles him again. She's on top of him, getting ready to kill him. Marty looks over and you see Patience Buckner walking up from behind. Patience takes her axe and drives it into the director's head. Marty pushes them both off the edge. So now Marty's still alive.
Yeah, so
Dana's still alive.
So, you know, they're all covered in blood. They look like they've been in a battle. They sit down together, each of them apologizing to one another because...
Dana's like, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. And so they get high, like you just... Yeah. So Marty's like, humanity, I guess it's run its course, you know? Like, maybe someone else should take over for a while.
Giant ancient gods. Wish I could have seen it.
Would have been a great weekend.
Yeah.
And this is when you see this giant hand come up through all the cement into the cabin and
just crushes down on the camera to end the movie. So I think realistically, you could make the argument that Dana and Marty are the biggest villains in the history of cinema.
Because they killed everyone.
They killed the world. They let the world end. You know, they knew what they were doing. So like always, ranking the movie, I love this movie. And beyond that plot point of, you know, seeing everybody's vitals on the screen, this is such a great movie because you go into it thinking The Cabin in the Woods. This is going to be an Evil Dead ripoff.
Yeah, another Cabin in the Woods story.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But it's such an intelligent movie on so many different levels. And it's funny, I always have people like, oh, I'd love to see a remake or a sequel. And I'm like,
how?
The world
Everybody died.
Is it The Cabin on the Moon? Like, I would like, you know what, honestly, I would like to see a prequel to this and see somebody actually beat it. I think that would be pretty decent. But I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5 skulls.
Okay. I love this movie as well. I mean, it's got comedy, it's got horror, it's the whole shebang. I will give it a 4. It's entertaining, and I could watch this on any given day and be entertained. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
It's one of those movies that we could always throw on at any moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So we again want to say thank you guys so much for stopping in and watching this. Make sure you click the link down here in the description to watch our video with Sweet and Spooky on the table screams and see how we did on that. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a member for some awesome behind the scenes content. Until next time, I'm Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
Keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.